BulkLoads Podcast, your number one resource for everything bulk freight trucking.
All right, that's the concept,
Hey guys, Jared Flinn with the BulkLoads Podcast. Got Tyler with me.
What's going on?
Before we start recording, we had this great debate, and we were talking about hot dogs. Yep. Considered a sandwich.
I don't think this debate isn't new, but
like hot dog's a hot dog. A burger.
I think if you're posing the question, is a hot dog a sandwich? I believe you can classify it as a sandwich. It's two pieces of bread with meat in the middle.
In my life, ever.
I think it can be a sandwich. I think it falls into the sandwich category.
Well, I want to hear what you believe. Down below in the comments, add it. Is it a hot dog considered a hot dog, or is a hot dog considered a sandwich?
And if you say it's not a hot dog, I want to know what classifies a sandwich as a sandwich.
But you can have like a lettuce sandwich. There's no meat in the middle. You can have a tomato sandwich, a banana sandwich, peanut butter sandwich.
I feel like I'm a guy that has to have meat with every meal, so that's not even a meal to me.
Comment below. Does a hot dog?
I would like to know.
Is a hot dog considered in the sandwich family?
I'm pro sandwich on that.
All right. Well, we'll see what the people say. What the voters sink in. Awesome. So, highlight of the day. I'll let you kick it off.
Yep, we have Jim Goecki out of Audubon, Iowa. JK Farms. He's been a member since 2022. This is actually Austin Holt. He works on our TMS team. This is his father-in-law.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, and we've met Jim before, and he's a really good guy. But it's cool pictures. I always love the pictures with they got the grain bins in the background. I'm a flat top truck. I like the flat tops myself, but that is a good looking truck, I think.
Yeah, good looking, simple. Yeah. I like the scene. Yeah, there's nothing complex about it. Just a really good, old fashioned, iconic farm image.
Yeah, and it's cool that it's tied to one of our guys in here. So, Jim, thank you so much for submitting this picture. I know we posted it on social media as well. As always, guys, if you want to highlight your rig, we'd love to put it on the podcast or social media. You can simply send it in to podcast@bulkloads.com or just message one of our social channels, and we'll get it on that way.
Absolutely. Cool. Well, today's podcast, I'm going to bring in two local guys, Kirk Erickson and Rick Johnson. They both actually run separate companies, but together they actually offer lease purchase programs for trucks. And before you get angry and get all fired up about this, man, I want you to listen to this podcast because, again, at BulkLoads, we want to get good, solid content out there, but really give you every opportunity there is to be in the trucking industry. And we know not everyone can go out and buy a semi-truck and trailer, and there are actually really good lease purchase options out there.
Yeah, I think I even came to you after you told me that you recorded this one. And I was like, I don't know, Jared. I don't know if we want to. Yeah,
we're gonna unsubscribe.
But I think Kirk and is it Paul on there? Rick?
Kirk and Rick.
Rick, yeah, they both do a really good job explaining how they're different. Like Prime is the big one, but they really expand on what makes them different than like the Prime model, and they explain like carrier leasing, like lease purchase programs, and the difference that they have. So I think it's really good. There's going to be some really hot takes there in this episode.
And I guess one thing I was more fascinated with, there's actually more trucking companies have lease purchase programs than I thought. I guess in my mind, and what I figured, a lot of companies, a lot of their drivers were company drivers or company owners, and that's really not the case. And I think financially and, assets and liabilities from a balancing standpoint, it's actually better for the company and a lot of times even for the driver to be set up in a lease purchase program. There's more tax advantages for that. Not every program works that way, so I'm not promoting that. But again, this is just another strategy. This has been a wake-up call to me to understand how it works more in the industry when you're dealing with owner-operators and lease purchase programs.
Yeah, like you said, it's not going to work for everybody out there, but I think they have a model to where, like they said, if the owner operator isn't successful, then they're not successful. So they really promote those guys. They want to see them succeed in the business. Yeah. So
cool. Well, definitely listen to this one. You will be fascinated. Along with this company they currently run, though, they have a wealth of knowledge in the trucking industry. So there are going to be some highlights and some takeaways that you can apply to your business. So with that said, here's my conversation with Kirk Erickson and Rick Johnson. Kirk and Rick, thanks for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate this.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
So I feel very honored to have you men here, especially the wisdom that you have over the years in trucking. And
I'm sorry, did you say wisdom?
Wisdom, yeah. But just to share with our audience, man, I just I'm super thankful for that. But let's just start off the history in trucking, where you guys started. And Kirk, we'll start with you. Sure. But yeah, talk about how you got into it.
Well, actually, I was born into the business a little bit. My family had a bulk tanker business in Springfield, Missouri. Started out in Coon Valley, Wisconsin, actually, Erickson Transport, and I worked for them for 17 years. And I got an opportunity with Prime Trucking here in Springfield to start their bulk tanker division. So Robert Lowe and I started that division in 1999, and I ran that until 2010. And since I've had a couple sales jobs, and actually learned the lease purchase program through Prime largely, and then met Rick Johnson after that. And we have gotten together and actually started a lease purchase program that we found to be very, very effective for the drivers.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Operators.
But you started the tanker division at Prime, right?
I did.
I mean, and you grew that to when you left was how many?
150 when I left.
Wow.
So I think they're running about 400 now, 450. So yeah, it was pretty successful. And that was my first go at lease purchase program. The first time I'd really run into that and learned that from Robert. And I think they're still modeling similar, if not the same as they did then.
Yeah.
But it was very, very, very good program. And the drivers made good money and modeled some of the things I learned there with what I do now, and then some of the takeaways I didn't.
Yeah.
So,
Rick, what about you?
I moved to Springfield in 1967. 2 days before my 19th birthday, I went to work in the trucking business.
Wow.
I've been in it ever since. So I don't know how many years that is. If it was a cake, it'd look like a forest fire. But we've, the family and I have stayed together, 3 sons, wife. We've started and bought 10 different companies in the last 10 years, and 3 of those were trucking companies. The last one we sold was a tanker company in 2020. And we started this little sideline business in 2018 with 1 truck and an idea that we would grow primarily because owner-operators today can't get financing. And it's getting worse. Insurance and financing are the big 2 things. So we decided that we saw an opportunity in the market, a little niche. So we put 1 truck in it, a flatbed truck. And that was in the spring of 2018. We have 152 now. We buy them brand new every year. Kirk and I get together. We'll place a bulk order because that's the only way you can get a huge discount is the more trucks you buy. So, and I've been buying trucks from these guys for 20 years. So we buy them, we pay for them, and then we find people that need that kind of truck. Not the traditional heavy iron, bad fuel economy, poor maintenance, high insurance. We buy fleet trucks, which are specialized for owner-operators. They all have APUs. They're non-idle trucks, 5-year, 500,000-mile warranty, mostly Freightliner, Cascadias, and Peterbilt 579s.
Wow.
Cummins powered.
On the Peterbilts, Detroit powered, all 15-liter motors. You can order a 13 manual or a 12-speed automatic. A lot of ours are first-time buyers. Or second, they're a little nervous. So they'll start out with a used truck. And then typically within 18 months, they'll trade it in, get on the list, and order a brand new truck. So that's kind of how we ended up here. Kind of got out of hand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to kind of peel back a little bit talking about the lease purchase program, I guess in your thoughts, I mean, how long has this been around and why has that seemed to be a better solution? I mean, you talked about how a lot of these people, they can't get financing, so that comes in, but really talk about how it's really been a win-win for both the driver, the purchaser, the lease purchaser, but even the company that they're running for.
Well, lease purchase got started originally by the large carriers
Now, why was that?
because they control the freight and the truck, and it's just a different way to get the guy as a 1099 instead of a W-2. And they put him in a used fleet truck and tell him he's an owner operator, but they control the freight and the truck. So he's really an indentured servant. He has no control. If he loses his job, he loses his truck. If he loses his truck, he loses his job. We don't have any freight. We have nothing whatsoever to do with where they run, how they run, what they do. We're like a combination bank and truck owner. The only difference is between us and traditional financing is, one, we buy the trucks in bulk, so they don't have to go to a dealer and pay full retail. Two, we try to put them in a truck without a down payment. And then three, they have the option, they can pay the truck off and get the title. They can trade it back into us, or at any time during the agreement, they can sell it. And if it's, if they've got equity in it, they can sell it and keep the equity. And the fact that we don't control the freight and they're allowed to move the truck. We have 28 different customers right now. Well, we have 28 different carriers where drivers have chosen to take their trucks. And we add one or two practically all the time. Matter of fact, we added another one today. So we don't control the freight. We don't want to hear about where they go, how they run, any of that's none of our business. It's no different than if you were financing a truck with a bank, you wouldn't call the bank and say, you won't believe the crappy load I got yesterday. We have nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
So they like that. And they like the fact that they don't have to cough up, a brand new truck, 20% down for an owner operator is in excess of 40 grand.
Yep.
So most of them, if they had 40 grand in today's environment, you better keep it.
The other thing, and I'm going to kick this over to you, Kirk, like we had this discussion before, like your goal is to make that owner operator successful. Hopefully that he's successful in the package you put in. Some of these lease programs aren't set up that way, right?
Well, you're exactly right. It's of no value to Rick or I, either one. If the driver's not successful, we're not. If he can't make enough money to make his payments, then he's got to move on or give the truck back. Obviously, we don't want that. So we look for, we vet other carriers or wherever the driver's going to go and make sure that the freight that they've got will hold up to making their payments and the driver be very profitable. So, yes, I have seen that over the years especially, the market has changed considerably to where the needs have gone up quite a bit to make that threshold, whatever the number may be, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 a week in gross revenue. It used to be quite a bit less, but, as we've learned, it's just become a whole situation of really having a good quality partner with the carrier that you're going to be going to. And as Rick said, we've got a number of them now. We're trying new ones every day. After we go through the program and vet the carrier, then the driver's welcome to try to lease on there with our approval. And we like to try new companies and new opportunities all the time because that's really the name of the game. But we want the drivers to be successful. And what they've done in the past is, your larger carriers have taken their older trucks that they normally would probably turn back. And now they call it an owner-operator truck. And the driver's pretty much going to be doomed from the get-go because he's going to take off. That truck is going to break down no matter what, but at some point pretty soon. And, he's going to be stuck on the side of the road. He hadn't made any money yet, and now all of a sudden he can't make his payment, and he's going to turn the truck back in. And so the company's getting the truck back. The driver's out in the cold, and he's got a bad taste in his mouth.
And I'm not speculating, but that company almost knows that ahead of time.
Sure they do.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's part of the deal.
Yeah, that's part of the
They're
deal.
never going to own that truck.
Yeah, they know that.
I want the trucks paid off, gone by the time they're 5 years old.
Yeah, I just had to pay off the other day. First time. I haven't done it for a long time, as long as Rick, but I had to pay off the other day, and I was glad to see it. That's part of the deal. We know it's going to happen. It won't happen with everyone, but, percentage-wise, I'd say Rick and I probably see a larger percentage of payoffs than any place. It's a fair deal. It's a straight lease. They make all their payments. They'll own that truck.
Hey guys, Jared Flynn here. Thank you for listening to the BulkLoads Podcast. We know that a lot of you subscribe and are members of BulkLoads, but if you are not, and if you haven't created an account, click down in the link below, and we want to get you signed up on BulkLoads. We have thousands of loads posted every day, a lot of content to help you improve your business. So if you get a chance, go right below, BulkLoads.com, click on the link to sign up, and we will get you all taken care of. Thank you, and God bless. Rick, you were talking when you want these carriers placed, a lot of times you want them to be leased on to a carrier that's got a safety department and all that. Can you expand that versus like you all won't typically lease to an owner operator that's going to get their own authority and be out there?
That's the biggest risk. An owner operator with their own authority, there's no barrier between us and his insurance. Typical situation is you have a driver has an accident. Forget whether or not he's at fault. The lawyers swarm like bees. Mm-hmm. They're coming after this guy and the company he runs for, even though he didn't have anything. He wasn't at fault. So the typical deal is the driver first, then they go after the safety department. That's their checklist. Did you watch this guy? And then beyond that is the insurance company.
The deepest pockets.
Yeah, and then there's us. We're fourth in line. With a single owner operator, there is no safety department. So
he is the safety department.
He is the safety department. It's like hiring a drunk to run a tavern.
Yeah.
You have the driver, and he's responsible for his own actions. So who watches him? So then it goes immediately to the insurance company, and most of them have the minimum $750,000. Well, in today's environment, that's nothing. So then they turn around and come after us, and we're not willing to take that risk, and that's because our name stays on the title. I mean, we're essentially almost like a bank because the payments are principal and interest. Each week it applies first to principal, then to interest, just like banking software. So except that our name stays on the title, and that's why they can come after us. We can't afford that risk.
Yeah. No, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
I want to move on, and we're going to get back into the lease purchase because I think this is just an awesome program that you guys got going on. But Rick, I'll start with you. Like, you've been in the business for a while. You've built some companies up and sold them. Can you talk about, let's just start with the mistakes that you made. We all make mistakes. Like, what were some of those big mistakes that you made, and how did that help you learn to build a better company?
Well, one of the mistakes was when we started the tanker company. At the time, drivers wanted to own their own truck, and so we started lease purchasing the trucks for them. But we controlled the truck and the freight, and that we deemed was a mistake. That's why we peeled off and started another company, because the drivers were required to run the truck there, and we felt that was a mistake.
Why was that? Why?
Because it's back to the scenario the big boys did. They control the truck and the freight. The guy's not really independent. He's more of an indentured servant.
Okay.
So we recognized that in 2018, and that's why we went totally in a different direction on the trucks. So that was probably the biggest thing. And the industry's evolved. Back then, people wanted the heavy iron, the 389 Peterbilts, the W900s. You could probably afford them then, but the cost of those trucks, the insurance cost, the fuel economy, the maintenance, even though some of them want those trucks, they simply can't afford them anymore. You wouldn't start a taxi cab company with a Porsche. And we want them to be successful. And one of those things is we want to make sure that they don't bite off more than they could chew. Because the worst thing that can happen is that they lose the truck, they default. 65% of our buyers are second-time buyers. They keep coming back. And so
wow.
That's what we want. Yep. So that's how we corrected it. The other thing was we tried some, at the time we had 3 small trucking companies going. And I had 3 sons. The idea was I could sit home in the rocking chair and they'd run the companies. And that was too much at once.
Yeah.
So we sold them all, and we sold 2 of them, invested in a third, and then we built it up and sold it. But no, we're not going to sell the MJ. This is my eventual retirement.
I'm afraid Rick could cut up and burn any rocking chair you gave him anyway. But
Yeah.
Kirk, you work for obviously one of the largest trucking companies, you know.
I did. I worked for 2 large.
But like,
Actually,
what would you say were some of those key things that really drove success there at that company, or something that we could learn as industry or an owner operator listening to this that they had that really got them to be from 1 truck to, I don't know how many today, 8,000 plus.
Yeah, that is a good example. I'd say hard work, dedication, and staying focused are probably the main goals.
And think about like Prime there, from what I've always understand, everything's incentivized.
It is.
So like there's this model where, I mean, every little thing I've heard from the secretary's answering the phone to the mechanic, how fast he can repair a trailer. I mean, there's an incentive base or incentive pay on every process out there.
There probably is on the secretarial level. I don't know. I didn't see that, but I know there is in management, dispatchers, operations. Everybody is incentivized to a large degree, and I think that is a great model, especially in trucking, because hard work should pay good. It should pay more than the guy sitting next to you that doesn't want to work hard and that doesn't produce. It's based on production. I'm a big fan of incentivization. I think it's a very good model to follow, and it seems to work best. I mean, obviously, look what's happened at Prime.
Yeah,
I mean that's a great example, and they are the master of it. So I would take a lot away from that and say that that's a good program.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Rick, I'm going to go back to the lease purchase, and I'm thinking about, there's companies out there. What's the advantage to, say a company, they have 10 trucks and they can expand. Maybe they don't want to purchase any more trucks. What would be the advantage of them bringing on lease operators that basically you supply the truck for? They're just basically leasing them on.
Well, when you're a small company and you go out and spend $210,000 for a new truck, that's on your balance sheet. That's your cash flow day one. And if you have 5 trucks, that's very difficult to justify going out on a limb. If you can hire an owner-operator with his own truck, that's a variable cost. So whatever you're going to pay him as a percent of the load, you get the rest. That's the best way for a small company to grow their business, is minimize your risk. And typically at that level, most of them learn the valuable lesson in terms of accounting. And that's the first thing you learn is you may give up a little bit of control because he's an owner-operator and he's allowed to move. But if you treat him right, you pay him well, he's going to stay, and you don't have to invest a ton of money because the investment is on him. And he can make as much money as he wants, and you're thrilled because for every dollar he makes, you get X percent of that.
Yeah, that's good.
I would totally add to that and say that I think owner-operated programs, if they're run effectively, are by far the best. I think the driver, when he's got some skin in the game and has some ownership, it's going to make a big difference. There's always going to be a few bad ones out there, but in general, if you manage your owner-operated program correctly, I think the drivers are going to be your best asset. They're going to work harder. They need to. I think you're going to get a lot better production per truck.
Do you ever see in your experience with some of these programs, do some of these owner operators that you lease a truck to, they purchase it, but then they actually grow their own fleet?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So I think that'd be a great way for someone to get into it. But also if they have those aspirations of, someday I want to have 5 trucks, or I want to get my own authority and then lease people on, but actually grow into that.
First thing you have to teach them is accounting. The idea may be great, but where's your business plan? Put it down on a piece of paper. Understand what your expenses are going to be and approach it in that manner. And if you got a guy that's got a good credit history and he's got a really good head on his shoulders. And a lot of them, too, have a wife or a partner somewhere that helps them. So it's a hard business to start by yourself. The other thing we try to do for these smaller guys is we provide maintenance support on the truck from day one until it's paid off. You have a maintenance account, but it's not we pay 4% compounded interest weekly so that they have money set aside that they can see. That's their bank account. They can see it online. They know exactly what they got in there. But it's not just the money. It's if they break down or they have a problem. We have 2 people, and their full-time job is to handle their needs because you don't want them out there all by themselves.
Yeah.
If they have a flat at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, they're out in the middle of nowhere, then we help them find, get a truck, get it to them, get it fixed, get them back on the road. We pay for it out of their maintenance account, and they drive off. The idea is so we can help them flat rate their expenses. So if they're budgeting, they can't budget for an alternator that failed on the side of the road and cost them $2,000. Well, what they can budget for is what their weekly is, and then they can see that variable account we manage for them. But it's their money, and it does pay 4% compounded weekly. So it builds up in a hurry. But the big thing for them is not necessarily the money, it's the support.
Exactly. Well, now it's just the organization that they, like somebody's helping them stay structured and organized, that they have a maintenance account.
Right.
And when that issue happens, which it's going to happen, and
Sure
you're going to get a flat, it's bound to happen, that there's a plan in place. And it's not just, oh my gosh, I don't have the money to do this.
And they can get a hold of somebody all the time. Somebody they can
And it's
talk
their
to.
money.
It's their money.
It's not our money. It's a liability on our books. But there's usually $300,000 in that account. Well, in all the accounts. But they can see it, and when they get it, and there's no charge for this. There's no charge for the maintenance support or anything. The only time they ever see a charge is if we have to pay like a comp check fee to get a repair done.
Right.
And the repair's $1,500 plus $4 for the comp check fee. When they look at that receipt, and they can see it online, they can print the receipt themselves. When they see that receipt, they'll see the exact cost of the repair, the exact cost of the comp check, and no fee from us whatsoever. It's a part of what we do to make them successful. And that's 2 full-time people that man those phones.
Kirk, correct me if I'm wrong, but on some of these lease programs, are you all are getting paid and then paying the driver? Is that
Yes,
correct?
that
So
is
you're
correct.
handling the money, so whoever they lease onto, the end of the week or whatever, that company's settling with you, and then you're settling with the driver.
Sure. Yeah. And they all do it a little differently.
You're not okay. You're doing that, but on your instance, driver gets paid, then pays you the agreement.
We have 2 different programs.
Yeah.
Okay.
One is you have some very large carriers who will agree to take that money out of their settlement and send to us.
Right.
Then you have some companies that you have 10 trucks there. That doesn't make sense. So those guys sign up for an automatic bank draft. And it's a specific amount. It's the same amount each week, the same day, same time. And then they know in their business account how much they need to have in that bank account on Friday or Monday or whatever it is. So there's 2 ways to set it up. And it works.
Yeah.
Works very nice either way.
That's awesome. You're talking about, and they're one of a big company in our space, Bruce Oakley Trucking.
Love them.
That
Was down there last week.
You were down there last week, but yeah, you've placed a lot of owner or lease purchase owner operators over there, right?
Yeah, we started with them about 2 years ago. We bought on a truck, and then 2, and then 3, and I think we have 10 there now. And I have a brand new. And if you looked at the website, you would see a brand new 579 that went down there last week. And it actually shows on our website going to Bruce Oakley Trucking.
Oh, that's awesome.
And he is one of our success stories. He started with us at the tank line 9 years ago. He paid off a truck. Then he got a 389, which he wanted, and he paid that truck off. And he went to Bruce Oakley. He ran that. He put 980,000 miles on that truck, and decided it was time to put a bullet in its head before it gave up.
Yeah.
And so he called me and said, "You got anything coming?" And so I set him up, and he special ordered that 579 that you see on there. He wanted the twin stacks. Now, this is a 389 guy.
Yeah.
That has realized that the cost of operating that old 389, that he's spending too much money doing that with the fuel and the maintenance. So he loved getting that new 579.
He's making it look as much like a 389 as
Yeah, oh yeah.
So
He wanted the polished tanks,
Yeah.
he wanted the external
Oh,
stacks
nice.
and all that. So, and a 13 speed, so that's what he got. And he got the color he wanted. And
But he's getting the fuel economy.
he totally doesn't believe the fuel economy. He went from 5.5 to 9.5. That was $500 some a week.
Oh my gosh.
And
That's
his
crazy.
wife loved it
Yeah.
because she sees the money.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I wanted you to even touch on that. I'm glad you were talking about that, but like, that's a big mistake. And again, man, I want this to come out of your mouth, not mine, but like the issue of some of these trucks that these guys buy and this emotional tie versus really getting something that's going to optimize performance and efficiency.
Sure. What's the number one reason he's in business?
Make money.
Is it to look good going down the highway, or is it to make money? Because if you want to look good going down the highway, go to somebody else. If you want to make money, do it the right way. It's money that you save. And most of them, well, I say most of them, that's not fair. A lot of them don't really put a pencil to the difference in what it costs. So you got to, his truck was, and he put 700,000 miles on it himself, so he knew exactly what it operated at. He was a 5.5 mile a gallon truck. Well, do the math, 5.5 miles a gallon, $4 a gallon versus 9.5 at $4 a gallon. And they're like, well, it's only so much, so much. I said, you know how much that is in money? And we have a calculator that will tell them when you're speccing a truck exactly how much you're going to give up in fuel. So if you want to waste that much money and try to go for the heavier iron, which is way more expensive, then you probably don't fit the program because your chance of failure is more than twice what his is.
Well, yeah.
We want them to be successful, but you have to do the math and think of the money.
And that's why we got away from even giving them that choice. That choice is already done. We've made it for them. They're going to have a truck that's going to be fuel efficient. And that way they will be much more prone to be successful.
And that doesn't mean it's a dog,
Yeah.
because a lot of them think, oh, geez, you're going to buy these little bitty
Yeah, PACCAR.
PACCAR motors
No,
and then
we
won't run.
Don't have it.
We don't buy those because we know what it costs to maintain them. You
Yeah.
can't pull heavier loads with a 12 or 13 liter motor and have it hold up. You got to go at
Yeah.
least 15 liters.
Yeah.
And that's all we buy. So, yeah, it's not a cheap fleet truck. It's not one that's gutless. We don't spec them with 264 rear ends in them where they won't pull. We try to spec them where it's the perfect spot between fuel economy and power.
Mm.
So our trucks with 13 speed, we normally spec a 325 rear end, and that gives them about 1,250 RPMs at 67 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And that's a sweet spot for them. And when you tell them that, they know exactly what you're talking about then. Banks don't know that, but the truck driver does.
Yeah. And you guys have years of experience even explaining it to them that they wouldn't even know that. So when you're specking trucks, are there different specs for different companies that they'll be going to, or is it pretty close to the same? Like, is a truck that you're going to be placed over with Bruce Oakley going to be different than a truck that you got somewhere else? Are they all relatively?
They're very close,
Pretty close.
Okay.
but they can special order them. For example, if you're wanting a condo, we can do that. A lot of our trucks, well, the bulk of them are mid-roofs.
Bedrooms.
Because we specialize in end-dump, tanker, hopper bottom, flatbed.
Yep.
So those are all mid-roof. You don't need the extra space. But they can order a condo. They can order with or without the fairings, depending on the look of the truck. But we try to stay away from the highly specialized, the 18-speed, 565 horse, triple axle. That's not our model. And that business is very spotty. So we try to spec a truck that fits that environment. And strangely enough, Our truck fits all 4 of those perfectly. And you mentioned earlier the weight. We want the dry weight of our trucks to be about 18.1.
Oh, wow.
Which means with fuel, because we spec aluminum cross members, aluminum bell housings, all that sort of stuff to keep the weight off. So our loaded weight, our weight with fuel and driver on board, we want that weight to be around 19.5 tops. Yeah. And Bruce, you mentioned Bruce Oakley Trucking. They won't take a truck heavier. If it's 20,000 pounds or over, they won't lease it on.
And
because it's too heavy.
Yeah.
Right. And our largest customers are in the liquid bulk business. So primarily they're hauling 46, 47, 48,000 pounds, max load all the time, every time. So they've got to be spec'd out to pull that kind of payload all day long.
Yeah.
And that's what
I know in the hopper bottom business, just back in the years, we were always basing 25, 26 tons.
Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah.
Like that,
Sure.
we're figuring that
Sure.
rate, like, hey, this guy's got to be hauling 25, 26 tons to make.
pull it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when he's got a heavy tractor and a heavy trailer, he's at a huge disadvantage.
Yeah. Some people won't load them.
Are these trucks, so you're specking these out really even sometimes before the placement of that owner operator. You know
Sure,
exactly
most
kind of
of
what
them
you're,
are.
because you're getting them up and then you got those trucks already at hand to get.
Right. But the average buyer, the guy's, he got started with a used truck because he's tippy-toeing into the business. And then when he's successful and we see it and he sees it, then he can come to us and say, okay, I want to trade this truck in on a new one. What do you have coming? And that's when we talk. Do you want polished tanks, or do you want the skirts?
fairing.
You want the side fairings? But one of the things we always spec is the new electric style APUs. We don't want them idle in the truck. We don't even want them burning diesel when they're taking their break. They all have refrigerators. They all have plug-ins for all their amenities, so you don't have to run an inverter. But they can modify it. You want twin vertical stacks because it's just a look thing. There's no exhaust coming through the driver's side vertical. It just looks good.
Don't say that.
Well, it's true. There's nothing coming through that. It just needs one exhaust.
It really is just one exhaust.
So they get to customize it a little to make their own. And then the only thing they pay for is if there is an upcharge beyond what our bulk price is.
Yeah.
So that's all they would have to pay us in order to get on the slot for that. Now, if they're a first-time buyer, we may want some sort of a deposit because I don't want a special order, some sort of a truck. And then the guy in 6 months say, oh, well, my wife made me get out of trucking. You're going to have to give that to somebody else.
For $1,000 worth of graphics, that sort of thing.
Oh,
Things like
got it.
that, like
Yeah.
Rob does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They'll take and put their own logos on them. They'll sometimes put a wrap. The
Sometimes.
color, believe it or not, the hardest thing for them to make up their mind is the color.
Yeah.
You want a 13-speed manual or do you want a 12-speed automatic?
Yeah.
But all of our trucks are PTO compatible. So that way we don't worry about, you don't need that with a hopper.
Yep.
But if you switch to an endo, you got to have it. Our mechanics are familiar with wet kits all day long. They know what you need. That's why it comes that way. If it doesn't have a PTO, us putting one on is a piece of cake.
Sure.
So that's our business.
You said your mechanics, you have shop up here, your own mechanics that.
Yeah, if you check our website, that's a picture of our building here in town.
Okay, nice.
We lease a part of that building to Keenan Advantage Group.
Yeah.
Because they're a big tanker customer. They bought our old tank line.
Yep.
But we also have our own mechanics in the shop down there. And we do that. And if we get overburdened, then we have the mechanics at the other end pick up the slack because those guys, the bulk of them, used to work for me anyhow. So the truck goes down there for it. But the idea is a driver in motion goes to the head of the line. If you have a truck that needs the alternators going out and you take it to XYZ and he says, man, we're swamped.
Even if he's under a load.
I can't get to you for 3 days. That guy's got to go.
Yep.
Out-of-town drivers go to the head of the class. You stop what you're doing and take care of the out-of-town guy.
That's awesome.
Every time.
Every time. And if he's broke down and it's going to be 3 weeks on the back order, I got loaner trucks in the yard. Which one you want?
Yep.
And if he's broke down for 72 hours or more, he doesn't owe a payment for the week. Because if the truck broke, you can't expect him to pay for something
That's
that
awesome.
broke.
Yeah.
Because that's
Right.
just not right. Now, you cannot call up and say, I'm going to go fishing with my Uncle Joe next week. I want you to pay me.
Susie's
That
birthday.
Little
Little Susie's
click is that's me hanging up.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what we do. So, and if you need a loaner truck, let's say we have to rent one for you.
Yeah.
We can do
You
it.
pick. You want to make your payment, or do you want to pay for the rental, but you don't pay for two?
That's right.
So
That's
it bites
awesome.
us sometimes. But
Yeah.
once again, that guy didn't budget for two trucks. And it happens normally when there's a part shortage,
Yeah.
or in the case of an accident. So if we know it's going to be 3 months before a part comes in, and it has happened, and it will again, then we say, what do you want? You want a short-term rental, or do you want to just give us back this truck and take that one right there? So the whole objective is he can't make money if he's sitting at home waiting on a part shortage.
Yeah.
He has to move. So if he wants to work, we'll find a solution.
Sure.
I love that you all have, I mean, obviously you have skin in the game. They have skin in the game, but it's a really win-win. It's not like
That's right.
this isn't a zero sum. Like, hey, you're on your own. Tough luck. Like you want them to win. I mean, it's not.
Sure.
It's to your
It's in our
advantage.
best interest.
It's to your best interest.
I mean, we're in lockstep with them until the day the truck's paid off. And check this, those guys are going to be back.
Yeah.
A truck is a rapidly depreciating item, and sooner or later, he's going to put a bullet in its head. And 65% of our buyers right now are second time or third. So
That's huge.
It is.
It speaks volumes.
and it's all, we've never done a podcast. It's all word of mouth,
Yeah.
or they'll see it on the internet. But we don't spend money on advertising because our best source of leads come from the drivers in our trucks. They see that truck, it's a good looking truck, they talk to the guy. If it's a good deal, you treat him right, he'll tell 10 people.
Yeah.
One of them will call you.
Especially if he's making money.
Yeah. If it's a bad deal, he'll tell 20 people.
Yeah.
And none of them will ever call you. So we live and die by what we've done with the guys that come before us.
That's awesome.
All they want's a fair deal.
Yeah, that's right.
This is a big question, but this is something I know guys maybe just even looking on the outskirts, getting into this industry. But like, I mean, and we're in kind of a depressed market right now, but like some of these programs, what's that driver at the end of the year going to walk home with? Like what's going to be his taxable income after all expenses paid on average? I mean,
If he doesn't make double what he would as a company driver, he probably shouldn't take the risk. Company driver is...
so that's a good rule of thumb. If he's not going to make double what he would as a company
That's
driver,
right.
That's
he
pretty
shouldn't
much
be-
right.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Actually,
That's what you need to shoot for, because if you're going to take the risk, a company driver is a commodity.
Yeah.
It's like, to me, it's like punching a clock. I clock in at 8 o'clock and I clock out at X. They get paid X number of cents for driving X number of miles, essentially. So regardless of the program they're on, it's a kind of a controlled commodity. In our case, he can make as much money as he can as long as he's willing to work, he has a brain attached, and he has a good truck.
Right.
And it's not at all uncommon for them to make twice what the guy does. But they take the risk.
You may
you know,
just
and I'm
never
not
have
holding that like
numbers.
some number. Like,
Round
what's
numbers.
that, what does that? I mean, what would that be at the end of the year?
4 years ago was a lot different than now.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I mean,
If they don't make $100,000 by the end of the year, they're doing something wrong, even in this economy.
okay.
On the high side, I think I've seen drivers make as much as 250.
That was in 2022.
Yep.
I had one that made 300.
They were taking home
300.
250.
Yeah, take home. Yep.
That's
That's what they
after the
paid taxes on.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's
I saw
all
more than
about-
one driver make that much.
The most important thing in all of it is the truck and his mindset.
Yeah.
If he has to be home every weekend to check on the little wife and he's got this and that, and he can only
He's
work 4
going to
days a week,
struggle.
he's going to struggle.
Yeah.
He needs to be probably in a company truck because he's really not ready to make that investment
Of time.
of time.
Yeah.
But by the same token, we don't expect him to go out there and live in the truck.
That's
we
right.
just want him to. As a matter of fact, we don't really pursue those guys. We want the ones that want to work hard, that want to work safe, that want to watch their money.
Yeah.
And they want to make way more than what a company truck pays.
Right.
And they don't want to drive that piece of crap company truck.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, but
that's what they usually are.
well, I'm sorry, but the facts are facts.
Good examples, yeah.
They spec the financial people at these large companies are the ones that buy the trucks.
And they skinny them down.
They want to get it as cheap as they can.
Yeah.
And an owner operator doesn't want to drive that cheap, plain Vane vanilla company truck. He
That's
just
right.
doesn't. So
That's
give him something he's proud of that he can make the money with, and then the rest of it's him.
I'll be dead honest when I say, like, I've always had a bad taste in my mouth on lease purchase programs. And again, just from what I've seen and like how these truckers have been preyed on.
You
know, we
It's
started
very- it's very
BulkLoads years ago to give small owner operators more
Mm-hmm.
power, more freedom. You know, it's always something I've always lived and breathed by. Like, so we didn't care. It wasn't about if we help these guys, we're going to
Sure.
be fine. You know, but I love that you guys. It seems like you guys are figuring out a way with the lease purchase program that actually works. It's
Well,
actually benefiting
yeah,
the
it
driver.
has to.
Are you?
Yeah, and again, I'm not saying that to blow smoke, and it's like,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
not
no,
saying
I know.
like you're a good salesman, but like this
Yeah,
is
that's
actually like it's awesome to hear. It's relieving to hear because in my mind, and I've even done some of these previous podcasts where like I've been like like some of these companies like stay away, don't do it because like you're just like you're setting yourself up for failure. But this
You are.
They control the truck and the freight. What chance do you have? Now, are you familiar with the Federal Task Force on Lease Purchase Agreements?
Yeah, it's getting to be a federal level now.
Yeah, they have 8 people assigned. Buttigieg assigned them about a year ago to determine what is the problem with the predatory lease purchase program.
Snyder Bulk, a lot of those.
Best thing they ever did.
Yeah.
And you know the one thing they came up with first, the one thing, and the guy in charge of that committee is a personal injury lawyer. Sorry, guys, don't throw rocks at me. I didn't hire him. But he came up with the fact that the basic problem with the lease purchase program is that the company, for the most part, the company controls the truck and the freight.
yeah,
It is predatory.
Controls it all.
It is predatory.
Yeah. And then,
Very much so.
by de facto, it's predatory.
Yep.
So he suggested they simply remove that option. If you are a lease purchase company, they should be allowed to move the truck. You cannot have controlling interest in both companies.
Yep.
And the second thing was, his recommendation was that they not do lease purchase to single owner operators for the very thing I just talked about.
Yeah.
Because the risk is too great. Now, so that's the direction they're going, and you can check the Federal Register. They had a meeting June the 14th, and they meet about every 60 days. So I watch those articles that come out. That's the direction they're heading. So if they could ever get a consensus, if they just, whether it's a law, a rule, or how they word it, if they just eliminate the fact that the same company controls both,
yeah,
Right.
then the lease purchase program, our business, will explode. We have to get a hold of Bill Gates to get enough money to fund all this.
It would.
Because she sure won't give it.
And it's going to happen. It's just a matter of time. I think it is definitely going to happen.
It'll happen. It has to happen.
Yep.
it's just it allows more for a free market.
Sure.
for these guys.
Yeah,
exactly
you're not
right.
an indentured servant anymore.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. Wow. Well, just to kind of land this plane and sum up here, Rick and Eric, or excuse me, Rick and Kirk,
You're good.
for these guys that are listening to this podcast and maybe they want to learn more about what you all offer. We discussed a lot today. What's really the next step for them to reach out to you all?
Well, we each have a website.
Yep.
And we'll put those, if you want to say it, and we'll put those links. If you listen on the podcast,
Okay.
you'll be able to see them in the episode notes. But the website is
It's mjleasingllc.com.
okay.
It has a picture of our facility on the front, so you can see it's a real business. It's not a backwoods deal.
Yeah.
We have pictures of
It looks great.
our available trucks on there, and you can see what they are, the miles, just like you're going to a dealer.
Yeah.
Then there's a tab that has frequently asked questions, because every question that we've covered here today is what a lot of them are going to ask. So if someone has asked that question more than twice in 6 months, we publish that in the FAQ. So you can read through the questions the other guys have asked and what's the answer. So you get a really good idea of the program there. And then if you're interested, there is a little credit app you can fill out with your cell phone. It takes about 2 minutes. encrypts the file,
Right.
sends it to 2 people within our organization, and then we look at him, we assess him, and we see if we think he's got a chance of making it.
Yeah.
So we try to qualify him with no money down. It isn't always possible, but it large percent of the time it is.
Yeah.
Is there a certain percentage of people that were in bad lease purchase programs before?
About 95%.
Yeah, I'd say a lot of them.
Yeah, and
they're
it's-
skeptical, very skeptical when they come on.
Yeah, they're worried to death.
Yeah,
But they were,
they've been hurt
they've been hurt.
financially.
Yeah. And then Kirk, for yours,
It's-
krmlease.com.
That'll get to me.
That'll get to
Yeah,
you.
so very similar
For
site.
the listeners, which do they hit for? Who do they contact first?
Well,
We don't.
we're both very similar. We
No,
work
I'm
together.
kidding. Yeah, you guys are working together.
We do.
we don't
Yeah.
compete.
Yeah, we actually help
If he
each
has
other.
a driver and I have the truck, then we share that. The idea is to try to get that guy set up with what we got available. And if we don't have it, if Kirk does, we send him to him. Because at the end of the day, we're not really worried about customers.
Right.
They're coming to us for a reason.
Yeah.
We just want to get more of it.
That's exactly right. Yeah, we don't compete. We help each other.
Yeah, awesome. Well, Kirk Erickson, Rick Johnson, man, thank you so much for coming to the podcast. Again, I've just met you guys recently, and
Well, thank you.
man, you sold me on this. I think I love what you're doing, and you've really changed my mind on the lease purchase. And again, there's different programs out there for every different person, but I think this is
We could both give you all kinds of
great
examples
program.
from drivers that it's been very successful for.
yeah, that's
Awesome.
awesome. Yeah, it's just it's a breath of fresh air. So hey,
Yeah.
thank you all for coming on the show. God bless you all. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you. Appreciate it.
Tyler, there was so much wisdom, I think, that Rick and Kirk unpacked in this show. But one thing I guess that really caught my eye when they talked about how they had the knowledge when speccing out trucks.
Yeah.
And specifically, Rick comes from, well, they both come from the bulk side of things. So they know exactly what these companies are looking for and the best way to spec a truck out to have really the best ROI. And I think that's one thing. And maybe, a little bit in the industry, driving a truck, but man, they have really just, I guess, got laser focused on when they're ordering trucks for specific companies, they exactly know. And again, I didn't realize how many of their trucks, especially Rick, that actually are that go to Bruce Oakley Trucking, which is a big.
Yeah, I
client
was
of ours.
shocking to find that out. But yeah, he's exactly right. I mean, whenever you're getting into this business, you're getting into make money, right? Like everybody wants to look good going down the road. I'm a fan of the good looking trucks.
I am too.
But
It's a tough thing because you want to look good. We got a beautiful truck up here, and then all 4 of those, but also at the same time, the truck's got to make a profit,
and
and
you
there's got
gotta
to be
run
a
your
balance
numbers.
between. Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
So I think this was cool, and I like what he said. You want to be, you want to buy a Porsche to start a taxi cab service.
Yeah.
That's just good advice there.
Yeah.
So
One thing I thought was interesting is that 65% of their buyers come back to, lease a second truck. And I think that just speaks volumes of if guys are coming back to him, then they know the program works.
yeah,
for them.
and they want a program where guys are continuing to come back. They're owning trucks. They're doing more programs. This isn't a program where they're trying to weed out people and they're getting them in these, I hate to say it, predatory agreements where the driver is going to be destined to fail. They have a very good success rate with this. So.
Yeah, so I'd say for anybody listening or watching, if you're thinking about a lease purchase, obviously do your own research outside of this. There are different advantages and disadvantages of different programs out there, but I think there's just that bad taste in people's mouth whenever lease purchase programs get mentioned, and until we really dove into this podcast, you can see how they're different.
Yeah. And I say this, there's so many different ways to skin a cat. I think if you're looking to expand your business, maybe a lease purchase program, to grow your trucking company might be the option. May not be, but man, it takes a lot of the pressure on those assets off you and puts it on the driver, but you can still actually add capacity and serve your clients. So there's just so many ways to slice and dice and look at this. And again, we wanted to bring this first and foremost to our audience to look at this as maybe another option out there.
Yeah. So if you're curious, we'll drop the link below, mjleasing.com. You can go visit their website. I'm sure you can either call them up and they'd be happy to give you advice, whether it's a good fit for you or not.
Yeah. Cool. A couple things before we head out of here. Conference is, we're getting that squared away. I've had people ask about it. Actually, I want to say this real quick. I was on a call today with a guy and he was at our conference. And he works professionally, office cubicle, and they have to have some kind of key badge. He took our lanyard and he uses it as key badge, but he wears basically the lanyard that we gave out every day as a reminder of the BulkLoads conference. Said it was the best conference he's ever been
that's
to.
Awesome. Yeah, that's really good to hear. Yeah, so we are planning for the next one already for the 2025 conference. We don't have dates squared away yet, but we are getting close to actually lining those out. The best way for you to get notified instantly whenever we do make those updates is go to bulkfreightconference.com. You can enter your email there, and we'll keep you updated along the way.
Yeah. Awesome. Cool.
One other thing I wanted to point out, we had that, I forget who it was, you might know, but we sent out a t-shirt and she posted it on LinkedIn. Yeah. She made a whole video unboxing the shirt and everything. I thought that was the coolest thing. If you want to know what we're talking about, you can head over to our LinkedIn. We actually shared the post, but I'd encourage anybody, if you're getting swag or anything like that and you want to show it off, just simply post it on social media and tag us. We'd love to see it.
Yeah. Kate, thank you for doing that. She said she was new to the freight industry. She found the BulkLoads podcast, been listening to it just to gain insight. So man, from the bottom of our heart, thank you so much.
It's so cool to see
for doing that and promoting that. We absolutely love that. So
yeah, awesome.
Cool. Man, well, that's it for this show. As we do at the end of every show, we want to pray for you and your companies out there. Man, we know that there's a lot that we need prayer for, especially for our company right now. Man, some of the events that's taking place, the week before last is just earth shattering. Yeah. And we want to acknowledge those and really be praying. Man, we believe God, when we petition our prayers to him, he does answer those, maybe not in the way we want to, but in the way that he feels we will benefit from. So, Tyler, you want to close us today?
Lord, we come to you today just to thank you and praise you, Lord. We ask that this week you just provide us just wisdom and grace, Lord. We ask that you just play a part in every business decision that we have to make, Lord. And we ask that you just bless every one of our members and viewers out there, Lord. We know that there's a lot of unsteadiness going on, Lord, and we ask that we just can tug on your shoulder and rely on you to bring us strength and peace to continue on, Lord. We ask that no matter what we do, Lord, we do it for you, and others can see that, Lord, and that we are a light for everyone out there, Lord. And we love you and we thank you. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, as always, for listening to the BulkLoads podcast. If you haven't yet, don't forget to click down the subscribe button in the lower left-hand corner. That way you won't ever miss an episode. We produce more than just podcasts, great video content. We have a lot coming out. So, man, make sure and subscribe to that. Please send to a friend or share on your social media. That way we can get this in the hands of others out there that can benefit and thrive in trucking. So thank you very much. And as always, God bless.